All right, today we're diving into something huge. We're looking at India's massive plan to tackle climate change, all while growing its economy. This isn't just another environmental story. It's one of the most important climate efforts happening anywhere in the world right now.
So that brings us to the big question, right? How on earth do you balance those two things? It's a central challenge. This isn't just about cutting back. It's about managing absolutely unprecedented economic growth alongside a complete shift to a low-carbon future. It's a massive tightrope walk. Okay, before we go any further, let's get a quick term out of the way because you're going to hear it a lot. NDC. It stands for Nationally Determined Contribution. Basically, think of it as a country's official public promise under the Paris Agreement. It's their to-do list for fighting climate change, for everyone to see. So here's how we're going to break it all down. First, we'll look at India's track record, what they've already done. Then, we'll see how they're raising their ambitions. We'll talk about the big 2070 net zero goal, dive into the actual blueprint for getting there, and finally, look at how this whole thing fits into the global picture. Right, so to really get where India is headed, you have to look at where it's been. See, their whole strategy is built on a foundation of not just meeting their promises, but actually blowing past them, often way ahead of schedule. And this timeline, well, it tells the story perfectly. India made its first big promises back in 2015 with a deadline of 2030. But get this, key goals on things like emissions intensity and clean power, they were hit years and years ahead of time. That's pretty remarkable. And here are the numbers. The key takeaway is that India didn't just squeak by and meet its goals. It surpassed them by a lot, and nearly a decade early. Now, that kind of overachievement, that's huge. It builds a ton of credibility and confidence, both at home and on the world stage. So what do you do when you hit your goals a decade early? Well, you don't just sit back. That early success became a launchpad. It allowed India to up the ante, to set even tougher, more ambitious goals for the future. And you can really see the jump right here. The ambition just skyrockets from the original targets to the new ones for 2035. And that emissions intensity number, that's all about becoming more efficient, getting more economic bang for every bit of carbon you release. The goalposts have clearly moved. And they've also added a whole new piece to the puzzle. It's not just about what you stop putting into the air, it's also about what you can take out. So there's this massive push to grow more forests, to act like a giant natural sponge, a carbon sink, soaking up pollution right out of the atmosphere. Now, all these targets, the ones for 2030, the new ones for 2035, they're all just stepping stones. They're all pointing towards a much, much larger long-term vision for the entire country. And this is it. This is the ultimate dual ambition. Goal number 1, Viksit Bharat, which means becoming a developed nation by 2047. Goal number 2, do all that while getting to net zero emissions by the year 2070. These two goals are completely intertwined. And let's be really clear about the scale of what we're talking about here. This quote from one of the official documents says it all. It's totally unprecedented. No other major economy has even tried to grow its GDP 8 times over, while at the exact same time doing a radical green makeover of its entire energy system. So the ambition is off the charts. But the big question is, how are they actually going to pull this off? Let's take a look at the blueprint for this green growth. Well, the strategy isn't to bet on just one thing. It's a full-on, multi-pronged attack. We're talking a massive expansion of solar and wind, of course, but also major investments in things like green hydrogen, electric vehicles, and even testing out carbon capture for those really tough industries. And this isn't just a plan being dictated from the top. It's designed to be a coordinated effort that works at every level. You have the national plan setting the big picture, but then state and local programs take that framework and tailor it to what actually makes sense on the ground in their specific regions. And these plans have a very real impact on people's lives. A perfect example is the PN Surya Ghar scheme. I mean, this is a huge program. The goal is to turn 10 million individual homes into their own little solar power plants. It's a fantastic example of the blueprint in action. Now, this is really important. The plan isn't just about technology and government policies. A huge piece of the strategy is actually about getting the entire population involved. It's about people. And at the very heart of this people-centric idea is something called mission life. The government itself calls it a mass movement. The goal is to shift the focus from just what governments can do to what we can all do together. So the whole idea is to take sustainable living and make it mainstream. The thinking is that all those small, simple, everyday choices, when they're made by millions and millions of people, can add up to a truly massive positive impact.
All right, so let's zoom out for a second and see how all of this fits into the bigger, global picture and how India is presenting its strategy to the rest of the world. The entire strategy is framed by what's called a development-first approach. The core argument here is that for a developing country, you simply cannot separate climate action from the need for economic growth and lifting people out of poverty. They have to go hand in hand. One can't come at the expense of the other. And all of this leaves us with a final, really interesting question. If India can actually pull this off, if it can grow its economy 8 times over while getting on a path to net zero, could its journey become a new model? A new playbook for other developing nations that want prosperity in a world that's dealing with climate change? It's something to think about.